Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video I wanted to talk about the natal aspect Mercury in conjunct Neptune or Mercury quincunx Neptune. So these in conjunct aspects, they're just my favorite because you guys are just, and I have them in my chart too, so I'm not judging, but there's just a real weirdness about quincunx aspects. Like, they are the ultimate awkward energy. And with this quincunx, or in conjunct, there's a real mental awkwardness, and it can sometimes come out in the speech too, that the way that you guys communicate is like very odd in some ways, but also very captivating. So I love you guys. I love the quincunx aspect, and it's just not talked about enough. So I'm going to talk about it here in this video. So with Mercury, the mind, how we think, how we process information in the environment, and how we communicate, making this awkward aspect to Neptune, which is the planet of illusion, deception, confusion, spirituality, the oneness of life, the energy field of all that is. When this is happening, the mind is very aware of all the subtle currents of energy going on. And this can be quite confusing. But the difference between this aspect and others is that we're quite aware that something is very off. With like the way that we think, the way that we perceive information, that it ends up leading us to become kind of like a researcher or a detective about the things represented by our Mercury. So you want to look at the Mercury sign, house placement, other aspects, because yeah, the effect of this quincunx is like we sense there's something, very off or very wrong. So the quincunx aspect has a sixth house, eighth house connotation. So the eighth house energy of it is kind of like the researcher, the detective, right? And then the sixth house energy is kind of like focuses on work and health, and like sometimes psychosomatic, like illness and things like that can come up. So what can end up happening with this quincunx is that, something that we do for work or something that we do to focus on our health, we end up becoming quite the obsessive studier about it. And it's because there's like this energy of being connected to everything that we want to discern, what's what, right? And so this quincunx can be quite motivated to kind of understand things from every angle. And you can really be that person who you can understand every single person's thoughts about something. Like, you can identify with the criminal, you can identify with the, whoever's doing what. You're able to kind of put yourself in the other's shoes. Now, where this gets difficult is thinking about what you actually think about things, because you have this tendency to like be like, well, this person thinks this and sees it this way, and this person sees it this way, and then it's like, well, okay, well, what do you think? What do you actually think and believe, right? So there is a need with this quincunx, because it can be kind of a difficult energy to deal with. There's a need for meditation, and there's a need for alone time. Now, you don't want to go too far with this and become like super secluded. That is one manifestation of this, because you sense that your mind is far too open and impressionable, and you definitely can have a bit of anxiety in communicating with people and picking up on all these energies. Like, that you might want to be sort of a hermit, or, kind of totally disconnected from communication in the outside world. That's like one severe manifestation. You don't want to go that far with it. But it is true that in order to think for yourself and come to your own ideas and conclusions about things, you need to be alone. Not for a long time, not all day necessarily, but in the moment when you're communicating with people, it's very easy for you to just like adopt their perspective, and you're not even going to realize you're doing this necessarily. You just kind of take it on and then you become them, and then you communicate right back what exactly they are thinking. And so you'll find that sometimes with this aspect, like you might regret things that you've said in the moment, like impulsively, because you actually weren't really thinking for yourself. You were kind of, sponging off the energy of other people and relaying that information back to them. And then you realize, oh, I said something that I didn't really believe, or yeah, and that can cause problems, that can cause trouble, that can cause difficulties in work or health as well, by being all things to all people, and lacking in the discernment to really think for yourself. And it's not that you're incapable of thinking for yourself, but you get swept up in the moment sometimes, and this can end up being quite problematic, because then it can create that cycle of like shame, why did I say that? And you can see this, causing a little bit of social anxiety, because it's really hard to separate energies from people when you're communicating with them. So even just like every day, having a bit of meditation, especially before you make any major decision or say something that's going to be like of critical importance to someone, like having time to just like reflect, be in your own energy, connect with your own soul energy, your own higher self energy, which you're quite capable of doing. You're very naturally spiritually in tune with energy, so you might as well connect with your own energy, right? And that's going to really help you be more clear. And then from this place of like self and groundedness, then you can actually use your intuition, and you can use this ability to like really feel what other people are feeling and saying. And you can be that person who has the magical communication. Like you say the right thing to the right person at the right time, and you end up being like this healing voice for people. And people are going to become addicted to you. They're going to become addicted to your energy, because you have this magical touch. You have this beautiful ability to say exactly what they need to hear, with just a little bit of tweaking, just a little bit of practice, so that you end up, not just saying what they want to hear, but what they need to hear. You can end up being that voice. And, because this is difficult, I find the quincunx aspect to be even more difficult than the square, because we really don't have anything in common with these energies, right? The square, they do still share a little bit of similarities in the, the modality, right? But the quincunx aspect is just totally foreign. It's like we've got these two aliens, alien to each other, right? And we're trying to figure out how to work with the energy. So to me, the quincunx is actually causes more self-reflection, more introversion, more insecurity to like, figure this out. And so what that ends up leading to is like a profound level of like wisdom and a gift that comes through the constant questioning and trying to figure it out, and like that lingering feeling like something is wrong somewhere with my mind and the way that I'm speaking to people. So I better figure this out, right? And then, yeah, what ends up happening is like this becomes a gift, and you become even more gifted than people with the easy aspects, because they've never had to deal with the excessive even paranoia that you've had to deal with in your own mind. So you can end up really like honing this ability, like it's like a magic wand, in the way that you speak, the way that you think, that the insights that come to you. Like you are very perceptive, you are very spiritually in tune, you're probably mediumistic, you're tapping into many different fields and energies, and like without proper knowledge or without like developing this, it can feel like your mind is a crazy place, and the world, the impressions you're receiving, it's like, what is going on, right? But with just a little bit of like cultivation and awareness that this is going on, you end up being, like I said, this like very insightful, intuitive, compassionate, because you know how to also deliver what you're saying because you have insecurity about this because you've said things wrong many times. And so you end up kind of like when you do stop to think about it a little bit, or you stop to meditate before you're going to have that meeting with someone or whatever, like you end up being able to deliver things with like truth and grace and healing. And like I said, people will become addicted to your energy because nobody can see them like you see them. And nobody can put themselves in your shoes or the other person's shoes like you can. And it ends up being quite the gift as far as communication goes. Although you do still always need your bits of time to kind of recharge and clear your energy from other people's, like, cut the tie with the person that you just spoke to, because you can have people kind of lingering in your field as well, like kind of clinging to your energy and your wisdom and your mind. And so you want to like periodically or like daily cut the ties with people, come back to your own energy, take some time to meditate. Substances, alcohol, drugs, all of these things can be very damaging for all people, I believe, but especially people with Neptune contacts like this, that can lead to, more paranoia, more confusion, more insecurity about who you are versus who other people are, right? We want to separate your energy from people, and, getting all drunk and kind of, you're going to create this like false sense of connectedness to people, which you don't need any more of. You actually need to separate energies, right? So, these are just tips and advice. You don't have to follow them. But when you have a Neptune aspect like this, where you need like more boundaries, not less, right? So, and yeah, that's actually like a big key of this aspect, is like having more boundaries with people, not less. And even with the hard aspects of Mercury, Neptune, this one too, although maybe less than the opposition, but still a bit, you want to have some distance from like your mentors, because you might be kind of like a puppet of what they are saying. Like, there's a tendency to kind of like idolize and like put people on a pedestal that are people that you look up to, like mentors or teachers or, bosses or, stuff like that. So you want to actually recognize that like you are just as capable, you are just as smart. You're actually probably so intelligent. You've just spent your whole life telling yourself that there's something wrong in your mind, but you're actually, the way your mind works is different, but you're like just as smart as anyone else, if not even smarter. And so while you can take advice from people and really, learn amazing things from people, you ultimately are the knower of what is right for you. And like, you're going to come to your own understandings. You don't need to be like reliant on other people to tell you what to do and how to think. You know better than anyone, right? And so there's like a need for balancing like who we're learning from and how much we're taking in from these like authority figures, or even there could have been someone in the family from a very early age that was telling you, here's how to think, here's what to do, here's what you should do in your day-to-day life kind of thing. And there's a need to like distance from that, cut the tie with the family line or a sibling or a parent, and really be your own person. And you could see with this one too, like many fluctuations and changes in the job, like that you end up doing for work. Like, it can take a while to really set on one thing and really find the thing that's truly right for you. And the reason for that is too much outside insight influencing and creating confusion, and sometimes leading to inaction, or sometimes leading to the wrong actions because they weren't based on that sacred place of soul within, but the confusion and the impressions coming from the outer world, right? So that's why, yeah, it's just crucial to like be in your own energy with this quincunx. And then from that place, like, you can create miracles. You can really manifest things from thin air, sometimes even more than the other aspects, because of how difficult this has been and how this has been kind of like this annoying thing for you. And yeah, just a little bit of meditation with this one goes a long way. A little bit of self-authority and sureness goes a long way with this aspect, because Neptunian energy is truly magical and mystical and amazing, but it just requires a little bit of grounding and energy work that is not really taught in the mainstream world, right? So you can feel uncomfortable on this planet. You can feel like you don't belong and it's too hard and it's too confusing. But you just haven't been taught these very simple, very basic practices to be in your own energy. And once you have, it's like, yeah, you can create miracles with this one, because the mind connecting with Neptune in this way that makes like the researcher, the detective, like I said, you can really bring your thoughts into reality. You have manifestation power. What you think becomes true. So you want to really have like a daily practice to like practice positive thinking, to not, on the real negative side of this, like some people will become very paranoid with this aspect. Like you can just as easily have worst case scenarios playing out in your mind as you can have best case scenarios. So which one are you going to choose? Like your thoughts have power with this Quincunx. But yeah, I think that it's really actually showing an incredibly gifted mind when you have this. And perception, like you're very perceptive. And just with like the little bits of advice I've given, it's like you can really create magic with this aspect. So I'd love to know your experience of this one. If you have it in your natal chart, what has it been like for you? I'd love to know. I'm sending you all the love. You're so gifted. You're so smart. And thank you for the requests, you guys. Keep those requests coming, and we'll talk soon. Bye.